again, let me just start off by saying that this video is probably my favorite video of all time. And mainly because what I made is so amazing that I have no words. I'm just so excited. Today's video is a doll makeover, and I haven't made a doll makeover for this channel since last year when I made Cori Cruize. If you haven't seen Cori Cruize, she is a Monster High doll that I completely remade into the Decora Kai fashion from Tokyo. Well, she was so popular that another YouTuber and friend of mine reached out and asked if I would do a collaboration with her. And of course I had to say yes. And that person was none other than the amazingly unique Ayesha. Oh my gosh, I was so excited when she reached out to me. Now I do have to say, this project originally started as a collaboration, but it's no secret to anybody that last year, the year that shall not be named, just completely sucked the life and inspiration and creativity out of myself and Ayesha. And neither of us were really able to find the time or the energy to make the projects that we promised to each other. So instead, I finally found some time to make her doll, and I'm sending it to her as a birthday present. So it's no longer a collaboration, which is completely fine with me. I am more than happy to make her this doll and send it. And I think if I can get this out in like the next week or so, it should make it to her by her birthday. But it is going all the way from like the Western United States, because I'm in Washington, all the way over to England. So it has quite a trip. Now I do have to say, right now, even though this is the intro, the doll is done. She's finished. I already made her. She's down here. You can't see her yet. No peeking. Although I guess you already saw the thumbnail, so. Here is Cori Cruize from the Wild Hearts Crew Mattel line. I absolutely adore this doll, and it is truthfully really hard to give her up. But I know she's going to be cuter than ever, and she's going to a good home. Please forgive her missing earring and shoe. She was much loved by myself and my daughter. I love this doll's proportions and face mold, and I think she'll be perfect to represent a mini Ayesha. The first step in this makeover is to remove her head and hair. To remove her hair, I trimmed it as short as I could to her scalp. To remove her head, I simply heated up her neck with a hairdryer and gently pulled it off. And then soaked her head in super hot water to loosen the glue. And finally, I pulled out all of the hair with a ballpoint pen casing and some needle nose pliers. Be careful with all of these steps, as you could easily burn yourself or pinch your skin. If this is your first time, go slow and take your time. Now that all of her hair is removed, I can begin her face up by removing her makeup and hair paint with some pure acetone. It's super satisfying to remove one eye and try to keep it intact on the cotton ball. I think I did a pretty good job. And look, I got a star on there too. Once everything is cleaned off, I gently squeezed her head back onto her body and washed her head to toe in warm soapy water. This way, I know the factory grease, the acetone, and the oil from my hands is removed. Before I start her face, I need to give her some hair. Because Cori Cruize has braids molded to the side of her head, I decided to give her a wig instead of rerooting. I did this before the face up because I need to wrap her head in saran wrap, a sock, and glue, so her face would have totally been destroyed if I did this after. Also, this may look familiar to some of you. I actually shared a full tutorial on how to make a nylon hair wig for dolls a few months ago, and it featured this exact wig. So it was a total spoiler. I wonder how many of you were suspicious. I'll leave the link below to the full tutorial so I don't waste any more time here. But for information's sake, I used nylon doll hair in Ziggy Stardust, Pink Floyd, and Espeon from the Doll Planet hair. I created wefts of each color using fabric glue, then glued all of the wefts onto the wig cap. And finally, I curled all of the hair with a pen, aluminum foil, and a hair straightener. It came out so fluffy and cute, and as we all know, I'm obsessed with doll hair, and I couldn't be more proud of this wig. But let's move on to her face. Once it was finally actually sunny here in the rainy Pacific Northwest, I took her outside and gave her 3 coats of Mr. Super Clear. I'm sure my new neighbors think I'm insane. Like, look at this pose I've got her in. Poor thing. For her face, I'll be using acrylic paints, Arteza watercolor pencils, and Mungyo rolled soft pastels. I started by sketching a light outline of her eye shape with a brown pencil. I want her to look ultra kawaii and slightly cartoonish, so I made the eye shape a bit more exaggerated and large. As I'm working, I'm constantly turning the doll to different angles and upside down to make sure that the eyes are symmetrical, and I'm using a kneaded eraser to clean up any mistakes. Once I was happy with the eye shape, I filled it in with white pencil. This way I can see the shape better and get a better idea of where I want her irises to go. I also colored in her teeth. I am such a sucker for these open-mouthed dolls. They just look more alive to me. And I couldn't decide on a color for her irises, so I procrastinated by coloring her lips instead. Ayesha always has these gorgeous pink or purple lips. Her makeup is always stunning, so I chose a nice bright fuchsia color for her smile. I also elongated her smile very slightly by bringing the color past her sculpted lips just a little so it appeared that her smile was bigger. I also added dark brown to the inside corners of her mouth to accentuate the dimples. Then, still procrastinating on an eye color, I went back to her eyes and outlined them in a dark brown. I made the top of the eye thick and tapered down towards her tear duct to sort of simulate eyelashes. For the bottom lashes and waterline, I only applied a very thin line of brown. Still thinking about the iris color. Do I want to go natural or do I want to go fantasy? Ayesha could potentially wear contacts, right? Art is just an imitation of true beauty, right? So purple it is! Why not? I start by lightly tracing a circle on top of the white eye, trying my best to keep it centered. It's definitely larger than a natural iris size, but that's perfect for the look I'm going for. Then I copied that onto the other eye, going super slow to make sure they were even. Whenever I do eyes looking straight, they tend to go cross-eyed, but I'm actually really happy with how these turned out. They're perfect. Now, to give the eyes some dimension, I added darker purple to the tops of the eyes and down into a pupil shape. Next, I went in with a very light brown pencil and very lightly marked where I wanted her eyebrows to start. I knew I'd be erasing and starting over a lot, so I seriously did this very lightly. I tend to accidentally go overboard with my doll's eyebrows, so this time I traced the line with the pencil and sort of just left it at that. I can always touch them up with a darker color later if I need to. Then, using that same color, I added more color to her waterline and tear duct. This adds some more dimension to her eyes and makes her look more alive and breathing. Next, I blushed on some red pastels to her nose, cheeks, chin, and forehead. Oh my gosh, she's looking cuter and cuter by the second. Look at how much more alive she looks with the blushing. Also, I find that my cotton gloves really help to blend the pastels in. I added some dark brown to the inside of her ears and nostrils, and added some more blush on her ears as well. Basically, at this point, I continue to add little bits of color all over her face to add dimension and saturation. And when I can't get any more color to stick, I take her outside and spray her with some MSC. I usually only have to give her one additional coat of MSC between layers when using Arteza watercolor pencils. I've noticed that with Prismacolor, I have to do several coats of MSC to get the colors to stick, but Arteza pencils are so saturated that I can get the look I want with less layers. Now I'm going back in with black pencil and outlining the top of her eye and adding very light lines to her eyebrows to make them darker. And now it's time to get crazy! Ayesha is becoming well known for her glamorous makeup and fashion. And of course, one of her staple looks is her eyeshadow. Oh my gosh, I don't know how she does it. So I'm using this picture from her Instagram as inspiration. It's Pusheen type colors, blue, yellow, and pink, with glitter. Of course there's glitter! I know that those colors won't show up that well on this doll, so to make sure that I get their pure saturation, I'm laying down some white first. I'm tapering this color, making it thinner near the inside of her eyelid, and much wider on the outside. This will allow me plenty of room to add and blend those gorgeous eyeshadow colors together. Plus, I'm adding white near her tear duct, because looking at her picture, I can see that her pink eyeshadow extends down to her tear duct. I started with a super hot pink color on the inside of the eye and up towards the center. Then I switched to yellow for the center of the eyelid and blue for the outside. Then I worked back and forth between all of the colors, blending them together to get a nice gradient. It kind of looks like pink, orange, yellow, green, blue. So pretty! I can't get the color any more vibrant though, so it's finally time to go in with some acrylic paint. Each color is mixed with a tiny amount of water. I've noticed that if you paint something this small with pure acrylic paint, it'll chip off. But when it's watered down, it's thin enough to not chip off. I began by painting her eyes a really pretty light purple. At this point, I definitely made her irises a bit too big, and she looks more anime style than I intended. But I fixed that later, so no worries. Next, I added a darker bluish purple to the top of the iris, bringing it down into the round pupil. I don't usually use black for pupils because it's a little too harsh for me. I like to make the pupils a darker version of the iris color. Like the purple, I'm going in with white acrylic paint to make her eyes pop. I'm also using that same white to paint her teeth. I wasn't too happy with the dark portion of her eyes because it kind of blended in with the rest of the purple. So I mixed up a darker purple and painted that on the top half of the eye and down into a round pupil. Once I was happy with her irises, I started painting her eyeshadow to make it more vibrant, using the same colors as before and blending them into each other. I also painted her lips with the same pink color and used it for her tear ducts and waterline. I defined her top and bottom lashes a bit more with very thin lines of black paint. This always makes a huge difference to me. To really give her irises more dimension, I added a tiny jelly bean shape just below her pupil in light purple, and finished off with some little eye shines. Gorgeous! I touched up her lips a bit more with a little shine for extra glossiness, added a tiny blue star on her cheek, and brought her to life with some light highlights and shading using my watercolor pencils. I also added some fantastic faux mink eyelashes. I am obsessed with false eyelashes on dolls. I think it bumps up the quality from a basic vinyl doll and plastic dolls to something reminiscent of expensive porcelain dolls. And she wouldn't be a mini Ayesha if she didn't have glittery makeup, so using a little bit of my Duraclear varnish as a glue, I painted on some glittery eyeshadow just below her eyebrow. The very last touch to any face-up is to add a few thin layers of high gloss varnish to the eyes and lips to create a beautiful glossy look. I love her! Her colors are so gorgeous! I'm really happy with how her face turned out. The hardest part is done. All that's left is her clothing. Ayesha loves Pusheen, so I knew I had to make her a special Pusheen outfit. And what could be better than a Pusheen kigurumi or onesie? Nothing could be better. I followed my Froggy Stuffs tutorial for making a onesie. I'll put a link below. Their tutorial was really easy to follow, especially if you've never created doll clothing from scratch before. I taped together a few pieces of paper and then laid the doll on top. By the way, ignore the rainbow undies. I tried coloring her sculpted underwear, but ended up getting rid of it later. To get the kigurumi shape, I traced a large shape around the doll onto the paper. I really made sure to keep it really big and balloon-like, because the kigurumi needs to be loose and cozy when it's done. I also marked where the hands and feet would go. To see a full and in-depth tutorial, please visit my Froggy Stuffs YouTube channel. I'll put a link below. They put in a lot of hard work to make this pattern, so I don't want to take credit. Once I got everything made, I traced it onto my gray fleece fabric, cut it out, and began stitching it together. I did not have the patience to hand stitch it this time, so I used my sewing machine. But honestly, my sewing machine is really starting to show its age and got tangled on this fabric a lot. And I think I would have actually saved more time if I had just sewn it by hand to begin with. I followed the My Froggy Stuff tutorial to a T, and this onesie came out perfect. I added elastic to the wrists, but left the feet holes as they were. The fabric is stretchy enough to allow the feet to slide in and out. I also made 2 little ears for the hood and a curved tail for the bottom. And to finish it off, I added gray fabric paint for buttons and stripes. Pusheen has 3 adorable stripes on her head, 2 on her back, and 3 on her tail. When I started this video, I couldn't find Cori Cruize's other shoe, but through the course of this project, I found it buried in my closet, randomly. So I was able to paint her original shoes instead of trying to make my own. Plus, I love the mold for these, and they go great with Mini Ayesha's outfits. These colors are pretty bold though, so I painted 3 thick layers of white before moving on to the real colors. I painted the soles and base of the shoes with a pretty tan color, then painted the top ribbon-looking portion with layers of purple, pink, and blue, just like her hair. I even managed to blend the colors together into a pretty gradient. Then to seal them, I added 2 coats of matte Duraclear varnish. And she desperately needs some accessories. I made her 2 little pom-pom earrings and a cute beaded necklace. Ayesha's running joke, although I'm pretty sure she's dead serious, is to make necklaces or hair pieces out of huge resin molds. So of course, I made the Mini Ayesha a huge cat shaker necklace out of resin. Well, huge for her because she's a doll, but I'm pretty sure this is the world's smallest shaker charm. I have the tiniest silicone cat mold, so I coated just the edges in white UV resin, curing it with my UV light as I worked. Then the real trick to making sure it's thoroughly coated and there aren't any holes, I took the cat out, squeezed more UV resin into the mold, then pressed the cat back in and cured it under my light. Then I filled it up with shaker bits and topped it with some shaker film. Then I attached it with some more white UV resin to a stretchy piece of string, and voila! Mini Ayesha has a huge shaker charm necklace. It's so small that the static cling of the film stops the beads from moving. Can you believe it? But it does actually function like a shaker. And last but not least, she needs her huge bling bow. If you didn't know, Ayesha actually makes and sells her bling bows on her website. So I had to make her one. I took a piece of plastic ring from a juice bottle and wrapped it in embroidery floss with hot glue and a pipe cleaner and some ribbon on top. This will keep it sturdy, flexible, and it won't snag in her hair. Then I made an adorable holographic bow from a pencil case I found at the dollar store. I folded it in with the ends meeting and hot glued it together. Then I cut the bottom and top edges into the shape of a bow. Then I pinched the middle together and hot glued it down. This makes the bow a bit more 3D and kinda puffy. I tied some embroidery floss around the middle too to keep it nice and sturdy, and then covered that with a small rectangle piece of the hollow fabric. Then I hot glued the bow to the headband and decorated it with some adorable pastel candy hearts made from resin. And, for real this time, last but not least, I painted her nails. I decided to go with pink nails and yellow accent fingers. Plus, I know she's married, so of course I added a tiny wedding band to her finger as well.
Hey guys, it's your girl Ayesha Sha Sha.
Here she is! I love her so much. I'm obsessed. Oh my gosh. Ayesha is gonna freak out. She was so much fun to make. She was really, really easy for me to do, to be honest, because Ayesha is just so full of life and so colorful that it was really easy to just kind of scan through her Instagram and find a bunch of inspiration. If you've never seen any of Ayesha's videos, make sure you go check it out. She is so full of life and so extra that you need to go see. And then you'll see how much of a little twin this doll is. I hope you guys love this video as much as I did making it, because I'm in love with this doll. I'm pretty sure Ayesha is going to be doing an unboxing, and she has no idea what this doll looks like. She has absolutely no clue. So, if you want to see her reaction, like I want to see her reaction, I'm so excited. I will put the link to her unboxing up here in the iCard and in the description below. If you like this video, make sure you give it a big thumbs up. Those likes really help me and my channel out. If you loved watching this doll makeover, then make sure you subscribe. And you can click the little bell to get notified of when I post. I upload videos every Monday at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. I do have another doll makeover coming up. I've been working on her almost night and day, and it's a Blythe makeover. Ha! I'm so excited. I've never done a makeover on a Blythe doll before, so this is my first time. So if you want to see that, then make sure you subscribe. And if you'd like to see some more of the behind the scenes and some sneak peeks of what I'm working on, then make sure you follow me on Instagram. You can find me at BunnieDIY. And if you guys have made any doll makeovers, or if you have any other crafts you'd like to share, you can tag me on Instagram because I would love to see. And I'd love to share your artwork on my Instagram stories. Here's hoping that this girl makes it to England in one piece. Thanks for watching, everyone. Love you, latte.